Hi, everyone out there on social media platforms and such, Facebook, the newsletter, anybody out there in the public sphere that's not on my subscription. I'm going to send this out as an update to the energies. There's also an update of where I've been. I have been offline since about July 3rd, the Capricorn Full Moon, and I made that decision to step back as I was feeling quite a lot of what was coming in and just felt like I needed to pull back my energy and only focus on the subscription. There was quite a lot of whirlwinds of information out there regarding the Venus pre-shadow and retrograde, and I had put a notice that I was going to offer, if there was interest in it, a Venus retrograde special webinar, but to be honest, I didn't get any interest in it, so I decided to just pull back entirely, let it up to those that wanted to come on to the subscription to do so. And there are no coincidences with astrology because Leo rules my 12th house, so Venus pre-shadow and retrograde in Leo has been in my 12th house. It's been a very kind of more subdued time for me to step back and just want a more close-knit space to offer updates in. Now, it was during the Gemini new moon cycle from June 18th to July 17th that I said that we were preparing for major new paradigms that were coming in, and ones that would be coming in midpoint at the midpoint with the Cancer new moon and past that. And we certainly are feeling into a lot of paradigm shifts happening in the collective and in our personal lives. This Cancer new moon that started, or new moon cycle that started on July 17th, as you know, I follow the moon cycle quite strictly. Because there's magic in the moon cycle. If we follow that, it's not just about new moons and the full moons. There's a connection with all of that. And if we follow that moon cycle through, we realize that we come into harvest by the end of the moon cycle. So it's very hard for me to just get up onto public forums and just offer up a new moon update and a full moon update without tying it all together. And that's why I really built the subscription, because there's an evolutionary process that happens throughout the moon cycle that we're really being called more and more to attune to. Anyway, the Cancer new moon happened on July 17th, and at the time for me, and actually back in April, I kind of laid out the themes for each one of these moon cycles. And so this Cancer new moon cycle has been about securing a new core foundation within ourselves, one that would would have us stepping into a renewed sense of purpose. And it's been a very trying Cancer new moon cycles since July 17th, a lot to do with quite a lot of paradigm shifting aspects that we've had. Not only have the nodes switched signs just an hour after the Cancer new moon, but we had the Sun opposing Pluto squaring the nodes, which marked the official midpoint of the eclipse. Always a time of great convergence and themes really coming to the tangible world as it related back to the eclipses and what they called for back on April 20th, which I have said time and time again that it's all about pioneering a radical new way forward. And a lot of these paradigm shifts have kind of put us into a grand pause. Especially with it coming at the time of the Cancer new moon, an emotional pause and an emotional reset, a pause that has caused us an emotional reset, and very much playing into the overarching theme of this Cancer new moon cycle, which is about securing a new emotional core that will then bring about a renewed sense of purpose as we wrap up this Cancer new moon cycle over the next few days in time for the Leo new moon on August 16th. But in addition to that, we had Venus retrograding on July 23rd and Pluto squaring the nodes, which is quite major, especially as it relates to evolutionary astrology, really calling us to let go quite profoundly of a past version of ourselves that we've known up until now, and get ready for a whole new one. And that has a lot to do with this pioneering of a radical new way forward. And so what you're seeing on the screen here is a Telegram update that I posted during the Gemini new moon cycle as we were preparing our minds for major paradigm shifts that were going to be coming through at the Cancer new moon. And so it's been, while I haven't been out there in the public space, I have certainly been very active on my own private subscription. And we've been going through the work that it's been calling us to do on that private subscription. So just a quick update and a prelude to this update that I'm sharing publicly that I just gave out to my subscription just about 12 hours ago. Just an update for you guys. We've gone through quite a lot since the Cancer new moon back on July 17th. And again, I follow the moon cycle quite strictly because I think there's magic in it and there's a lot of spiritual guidance, especially as it relates to our evolutionary journey when you follow the moon cycle and you organize the transits based on the phases of the moon as well as the signs that the moons are in. That the moon is in. And so in the first week, there was a sense of being stripped to our core with the node switching signs, Venus going retrograde, Pluto squaring the nodes, and that Venus retrograde being in this finger of God position with Neptune and Pluto, kind of really magnifying this level of uncertainty when it comes to the tangible world, our money dynamics, our relationships, where do I stand with them? And it was, in a sense, stripping us to our core to really look at them at a deeper level. And Venus retrograde is all about reprioritizing. What is it that I value? Like, let's look deeper at these situations. And we were certainly put into kind of a hangman position to do just that. And that's why I called the first week being stripped to our core. In the second week of this moon cycle, with the first quarter moon from July 25th to August 1st, always the second week is a time of challenge. And this one was going to test our emotional resolve. And we certainly got a lot of that in that second week that came about from July 25th to August 1st. And yet we were called to do that in order to get prepared for the Aquarius full moon, which always brings breakthroughs, which always has us majorly shift things and always brings a lot of shifts in the collective. And with an Aquarius potentially very scattering as well, lots of sudden unexpected developments happening. But if we had stayed true to ourselves and our journey during that second week of tests to our emotional resolve, we would have gone into that Aquarius full moon with more solidity within ourselves so as not to get scattered and step into a greater sense of individuation. An Aquarius full moon opposite the sun in Leo is saying, who are you in the midst of a crowd? Really find your sense of purpose in the midst of potentially lots of developments happening, lots of chaotic situations taking place, who are you as it relates to the people that you are associated with. It was really a time of individuation in that second week from August 1st through August 8th, which was the last quarter moon, and not only the last quarter moon, the well-known Lionsgate portal. So in the week number 3, as it relates to the transits, there was again a continued pause in many ways. Mars and Mercury making aspects that said, really look at who you are versus another, and don't get caught up in the scatteredness of everything that's taking place in reality. And there's a lot going on. Again, this is a time of with this Venus retrograde all the way through September 3rd of really looking at our values and reprioritizing ourselves and being prepared to pioneer a radical new way forward. And so it was on August 8th that we had the last quarter moon, the last critical point of tension of this moon cycle, the last hump that we needed to get in order to receive in the harvest of what the new moon on July 17th called for, which was securing a new emotional core that would bring in a renewed purpose. And it is in this week, this from August 8th through to August 16th, when we'll have the Leo new moon, that we are being invited to step into a new sense of purpose, but at the same time, being the week of release to receive, having to undergo the last hump of tests very much related to emotional resolve. If we're going to have a new emotional core, we're going to have to strip away what is not allowing that solid core to come in. And so there was some fear there, people feeling they were put up against the wall in situations, maybe money situations, relationship dynamics. But then again, Venus is retrograde. It's saying, what are my priorities? How can I look at everything that's going on, and what is the universe trying to tell me as it relates to these situations? And what does that make me in the end of that? If I don't have money, who am I? Has my own sense of self-worth changed? Do I allow that to change? As if a breakup has ensued, or we're finding ourselves shifting from another person, are we taking that personally, or are we stepping up with more courage and conviction within ourselves of who we are as it relates to our journey, our awakening journey, and this theme of pioneering a radical new way forward. And now being midway through week number 4, as the moon now re-enters the sign of Cancer, where it was at the time of the new moon, we're now stepping into harvest time. That's the time when what the new moon promised as far as upgrades start to come in. And we should be feeling that very gradually, actually very quickly, but gradually and kind of in a crescendo type of way, coming through over these next 2.5-3 days as we build up to the Leo new moon on August 16th, especially with a Sun square Uranus grand finale transit that's happening just before the Leo new moon. And because it's just before the Leo new moon, it's part of the harvest of the Cancer new moon cycle. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a prelude to what you're seeing here, the update that I gave on the Telegram space, on my subscription. If you're interested in getting updates like these, I do have 3 plans that you can choose from. Starting now, the basic plan only provides weekly videos on the each of the moon cycles and an overview of the week ahead. And then for the partial and full access plans, I give varying levels of detail also on the Telegram space. So do look out for that. You're more than welcome to join it. I'm always here. I have been always here. I know I've been on and off on the social media platforms, and there's been a reason for that. The astrology is getting a lot more serious, and it has been getting more serious over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's really calling us it has been calling us to go slower, especially at a time when the external world is going much faster. And so, yeah, I've been on the membership space. I have my own platform. And so if you're interested in more guidance, and things are going to get a lot more crazy as we continue forward. So if you want a space to kind of step away from the chaos and noise of social media platforms, do check it out on my membership group or my subscription group, whatever you want to call it. All right, I'll go ahead and start the video then. Hi guys. All right, so this is going to be an energy update for the remaining time of the moon in Gemini, and then I'm going to get into what we can anticipate for the moon's pass through Cancer, beginning Friday night, Eastern Standard Time through the weekend, and then I will do a quick overview of the moon going into Leo as we build up to the Leo new moon, and of course bring in the full harvests coming in. So right now the moon is at about 24 degrees of Gemini, 25 degrees of Gemini. And we have at this precise time Mars in that quincunx to Chiron, really calling us to slow down our step, to see that it's time to do something differently. It's an uncomfortable aspect, especially with new paradigms loading. We are not so certain of the road ahead, but certainly we are aware that something is really getting our attention and we need to step forward with caution. We're being asked to not go forward haphazardly, to take accountability for any missteps we might have taken prior to this. This has all been about taking accountability, really about getting our minds aligned in the right direction. And we should be coming at least to the understanding that we are definitely being called to do something differently and to step into a renewed sense of purpose, even though we might not see that just yet. Remember, the full harvests usually come at the very end of the week, and usually in the fourth week of the moon cycle, we do have to face one last hump of tests when it comes to what the new moon called for, and that was a higher state of inner emotional resolve, a more solid core within. So we are certainly being tested, and we have been tested since the last quarter moon a couple days ago with just that, with just trusting the process. It's been quite intense. I know for people around me, and also from what I'm seeing online, and also what the astrology has been saying. So the moon is going to complete her time in Gemini. I will be showing that in a screen recording. And then she will move through the sign of Cancer. And the moon through Cancer, the moon coming back to the sign of Cancer, remember that's where the Cancer new moon was on July 17th, which was calling forth the themes of building a higher state of inner emotional resolve. We've gone through quite a lot over this last month. With her coming back to Cancer, this is where we are going to see how well we have done over the last 4 weeks. And for those that have been doing the work, this is about stepping into these very brave heart stances, a newer sense of emotional core coming through. And I think I felt that just prior to the last quarter moon. I felt a snippet of what was going to be happening, that we were going to be feeling into this extreme fear, but then something shifts and we step into this renewed sense of emotional core. And I felt that like just within an instant, a couple of hours prior to the last quarter moon. And so there is a sense that we might be also experiencing that during this moon's pass through Cancer, but it's really going to separate those that can hold that inner emotional resolve versus those that aren't, and being able to level up to this renewed sense of emotional core. And quite a lot's happening with the moon's pass through Cancer as it relates to transits, and that's the sun is not only meeting up with Chiron, or speaking in a beautiful aspect to Chiron with a trine, but it's also meeting up with Venus, which is called the Venus Cazimi, meaning that Venus is meeting up with the sun. The Cazimi has to do with the sun. And you'll often hear the word Cazimi spoken about during both Mercury and Venus retrogrades. So it marks a pivotal point in this Venus retrograde. And with both of them making a trine to Chiron, this is renewed understandings of ourselves. This is a time of great healing that can come through. This is a time of really embodying a new sense, a new version of ourselves. And also with Venus in the mix, a renewed sense of values as well. It's kind of like we feel into that reset of a whole new value system and a whole new version of ourselves at the same time. But I do want to talk about the moon. The moon's passed through Cancer again, back to the sign that it was in at the time of the new moon, and how that is all about, us being able to re-experience a new emotional core that we have built over the last 4 weeks. Because again, it was at the time of the new moon that the moon passed over this time, and it's like now she's come back. She's like, how much have you learned? So that's what we will be speaking primarily about in this video update. But I do think with all the intensity, I do want to talk just briefly right now that we will have the moon passing through the sign of Leo. That kind of sparks us up into a renewed sense of passion. Leo is always an excitable energy. And it is that time that we will complete this moon cycle in its entirety. And we have this beautiful Sun square Uranus that we're ending this moon cycle with. Quite a fire display ending, if you will, to this very difficult moon cycle that we have had. And it is at that time that we're we're amping up, getting ready to express this renewed sense of purpose. So we do have a little bit of ways to go, but not much. And we're very close. Wednesday, August 16th, will be the Leo new moon. As you can see, I corrected it actually from a previous video, but as you can see at the top right of that weekly, that daily slide there, the Leo new moon happening on August 16th on Wednesday at 5:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so lots to get into. We'll go ahead and clear the board. And I want to talk a little bit about these last few hours of the moon's pass through Gemini. Lots of intensity going on. Again, we do have that Mars quincunxing Chiron, kind of slow your step down, and at the same time the moon going into all these aspects. It's squaring off with Neptune, quincunxing Pluto, and semi-squaring Jupiter. It's like so much emotion and intensity and possibly confusion building up, yet one that we have to tune into emotionally and intuitively, and kind of level up and again take accountability for the times that we are in, the situations that we're facing, and remembering that this is all about this eclipse cycle, about preparing ourselves to pioneer a radical new way forward. What that means, we don't really know. We have to be in that present moment, and we have to, as part of that, work with situations that have us managing fear, managing or dealing with perceived limitations within ourselves, and really doing the internal work to face all of that. But the good thing is that we're all doing this together. It is quite a lot of intensity, but we are now in the midst of an extreme paradigm shift that is calling all of us and the collective at large to pioneer a radical new way forward. So the moon will complete her time in Gemini, and as I said, it might be one of quite a lot of intensity, especially calling us to get our minds into alignment of needing to take accountability. And remember, thoughts feed into emotions that then create realities. Emotions are energy in motion. So we really want to use these last 10 hours to get our minds straight into that sense of self-sovereignty in preparation for the moon to move into Cancer, which is calling us into Braveheart stances. So the moon moves into Cancer about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard or evening time, New York time, on Friday evening. And remember, moon going back into Cancer, this is having us really look at all the work that we've done over the last 4 weeks since the Cancer new moon. How much we have grown into a renewed sense of a renewed emotional core within ourselves. And it is about at the time that the moon gets to about 9 degrees of Cancer that the sun makes that trine to Chiron, and then at 19 degrees, when she reaches 19 degrees, that's when Venus crosses over the sun, and essentially they're both making that trine to Chiron. And that's when our hearts, the sun, and Venus, our values, kind of get an opportunity to align themselves. Who am I and what are my values? And a renewed understanding of ourselves with that trine to Chiron. This healing opportunity coming through at that time. One of a renewed emotional core that we are sourcing ourselves from now, and having that confidence and courage when it comes to who we are, as well as what our values are now. And certainly over the last 4 weeks since the Cancer new moon, remember, Venus went retrograde just a couple days after that Cancer new moon. We've gone through a lot of reprioritizations, deep reevaluations when it comes to what our values and priorities are. And so in a sense, this Cazimi, this Venus coming over the sun, is highlighting that. It's bringing it up to the surface. It's integrating it to who we are at our core being. And again, speaking with Chiron, there's a sense of healing that comes from it, a greater sense of understanding, a deeper understanding and connection to who we are at that time. And I do anticipate this to be an emotional one because the moon is in the sign of Cancer. We're feeling things a lot deeper. And from that, the opposite of sign of Cancer, Capricorn, purpose. In a sense of duty as well. So quite a pivotal time. Do note that time there because that's going to be a significant moment. All right, so then the moon will move from that 19 degrees of Cancer, and she will wrap up her time in the sign of Cancer by the time Monday morning Eastern Standard Time comes around. But what's most significant about this final wrap-up of the moon's pass through Cancer is that you can see this building square to the nodal axis as well as an opposition to Pluto. Now, I talked about that in a previous video. Actually, I'll just do a quick review of that right now. So we had the new moon at about 26 degrees of Cancer, and as the moon journeyed around the earth over this last month, she's met up with the south node of it, which is in the sign of Libra. Remember that the nodes switch signs just an hour before or hour after the new moon. And so this was her first ever visit with this recent transit of the nodal axis into the Aries Libra dynamic. This was her first visit with the South Node in Libra, which is significant. And that came just 2 days after Venus went retrograde, the ruler of Libra, really asking us to look and purge out, expunge shadow sides when it came to Libra: people pleasing, self sacrificing, indecisiveness. Especially at a time with so much uncertainty, really knowing ourselves, really getting to a stronger core within ourselves. And then the moon continued her journey, and as she was building up to the Aquarius full moon, just hours before that, she met up with Pluto, which was square the nodes. Also a significant thing. This is not something that normally happens. This is unique to this eclipse cycle. And with it conjunct Pluto, this was really calling us to grow that spine, to know our sense of self-sovereignty in preparation for that Aquarius full moon that called us to individuate, to disassociate, to reassociate. And maybe we've been looking over the last 2 weeks how maybe that's shown up, maybe disengaging with certain people to engage with a greater sense of belonging with others. And then it was last week that the moon met up with the North Node again for the first time since the nodal axis moved into the Aries Libra dynamic, and that was a day before Lionsgate. It was a day before the last quarter moon. Really embodying this pioneering spirit within ourselves. So now, with this moon's pass through Cancer, the moon is coming back around to where she was at the time of the new moon, and she's going to be speaking in a square aspect to the nodal axis and in opposition to Pluto. So emotionally, this is about us feeling into that renewed emotional core within ourselves. And so it can be a time of great intensity, lots of profound feelings coming to the surface, but at the same time, feeling into this transformed emotional self as well. So lots that we are going to be building up to. And that's why, remember, whenever I title a slide for a moon's transit through a sign, I say it's a title that applies to what we'll be working up to by the end of that moon's transit. So Braveheart stances, I really that moon coming to that 28th, 29th degree of Cancer, the last degrees of Cancer, before she moves into Leo and we're getting ready to express a renewed sense of purpose. It applies to that degree. That's what we should be feeling, this Braveheart sense of self coming to the surface, and getting ready for the moon to enter into Leo and really get passionate about expressing what will be a renewed sense of purpose really coming online. All right, so again, I know it's a lot of intensity in these last few hours of the moon's pass through Gemini. It can be a little bit unnerving. We really want to find that centeredness within ourselves, get our minds aligned with this knowing that we've come here to do something magnificent and that we're being directed in that direction. And while we don't have all the answers just now, that is all part of what is catalyzing us into this pioneering spirit. A pioneer goes into uncharted territory. That's what pioneering is all about. All right, so hang in there. No, we're not alone. We're all in this together, and I will continue to provide updates as they come in support of what we're experiencing on the Telegram space. All right, guys, bye for now.